Now your challenge is, can you get the concept of feeling good into every conversation that you have today? And can you fill that conversation with as many ands as you possibly can get into that without coming across as strange or awkward? First, I'd like to discuss a little bit about how you can do this on your own. If you just want to do this completely on your own, based on what you've learned here, here's how you can go about doing this. First, create a list of other conjunctions that can be your power words, words like and because, and which means, and so on. In fact, if you go back and listen carefully to this webinar, you will notice that I accidentally threw in a few more power words in some of my demonstrations. I can't help it because they're kind of primed into my mind now. They're built in through years and years of practice. Secondly, come up with other positive feelings that you can use to induce these altered states of consciousness. We just work with the basic idea of calmness, relaxation, and comfort. They're very linked ideas. But it can also be about excitement and energy and enthusiasm. It could be about love and happiness. It can be about any positive emotion at all. And then you have to relate. You can relate love and kindness. You can relate love and relaxation. You can relate love to excitement, because the unconscious mind will do all the rest of the work, all the heavy lifting, provided your ideas flow smoothly with no disjunctions to snap the mind out of it. So list your power words, list your trance themes, and then just start using them in everyday conversations. Initially, you may want to challenge yourself to use one power word and one trance theme. Maybe you choose the power word and, super simple one. Let's say use a nice everyday power trance theme like feeling good, right? Now your challenge is, can you get the concept of feeling good into every conversation that you have today? And can you fill that conversation with as many ands as you possibly can get into that without coming across as strange or awkward? Note, from time to time, you will overstep the boundary and look a little bit odd or awkward, and that's okay. Especially if you do this with strangers, they don't know what your conversational style is anyway, so there's no baseline for them to judge it against, right? To give an example of this, one of our very successful hypnosis trainers now has a six-figure business all of his own. He started life off as a waiter at a high-end restaurant. At first, he wasn't making much money. It's all tip-based. And as a new waiter, he was in the bottom end of the rungs. Then he discovered this basic exercise of hypnotic language. We had a hypnotic language shortcut system, a deck of cards that trains this into much more detail. And of course, he joined us on the Conversational Hypnotherapy Diploma school, at least the precursor to that. And so when we went back to his work as a waiter, he put one of the cards in his pocket, and for that night, he would basically use that power word in every conversation with every customer that came in that night. And then he would vary some trance themes about happiness, about joy, about excitement, about energy, whatever was appropriate for the group at hand. And he would talk to them like this. After a few weeks, he'd make it 2 cards, 3 cards, 4 cards, to the point where his conversations were so filled with hypnotic language that his tables were having a blast. And what do people do when they're having a blast at a nice dinner with a great waiter? Well, first of all, they order more stuff. They order more wine because they're having a party. They order more food because they're feeling adventurous and they're feeling the mood. They start feeling more generous. And what does all that amount to? Well, first of all, just on a basic standard tip, you will get more tips. More sold means more tips. But here's the interesting part. Because they liked him so much, because every time he came to them and chatted with them, their mood lifted, even though it was already on a great place, they increased their tip. He made it from the worst tipped waiter to the best tipped waiter, bar none, within a few short months. And here's the crazy part. He was making over 5 times as much as the worst tipped waiter, and at least twice as much as the best tipped waiter within 6 months of actually starting that place. That's the power of hypnotic language. I'll warn you, your friends and family, they know how you speak normally, so they'll probably detect if you start making alterations in your speech patterns. So don't worry about practicing it too much with them. You can if you want to, but the best place to try to practice with this is with strangers. They don't know who you are. If they don't know who you are, they don't know how you talk. If they don't know how you talk, they don't know what is normal and natural for you and what isn't. So you can get your biggest mistakes out with strangers because they'll never know. And then gradually reintroduce it with your friends and your family until this is just a natural way of you talking with them. So that's the solo path. If you want to do this completely on your own with no help or assistance from anyone else. The alternative path is the one where you get some guidance. So, as an example, when I first started as a hypnotist, I spent well over $100,000 on seminars, on books, on home study courses, on flights, on hotels, on private one-to-one sessions, on mentors. And after doing this for, gosh, how long was this? 1, 2, 3 years or so, I wasn't even close to the place where I wanted to be. I knew a lot of stuff, but I still had so much work left to do. And that's when I kind of conceptualized a dream. The dream was it would be great to have a school that I could enter every day, right? I knew from previous experience, being at school, being at university, and so on, that going to a dedicated place of learning every day and doing a little bit of work is hands down the best way of approaching it. These intensive learning programs are great to get kick-started, but you need to keep the momentum going afterwards. And that's where a place you can go to every day really matters. The dream I had was, what if there was a school I could go to every day with great teachers I can ask questions of, with a great hypnotist that I can watch during inductions and pick up from them, with other students who are enthusiastic to practice anytime I had some energy left over from whatever else I was doing to practice. That would be the most ideal environment to learn. Why? Because it's safe, it's easy, there's guidance, there's clarity of purpose. I know exactly what I'm doing here. And there's feedback mechanisms. I can ask the instructor questions and get feedback. If I don't know if I'm doing it right, I can do a demo and ask for feedback on it. Sadly, that didn't exist for me. And that's why it now exists for you. I decided to create the very program I always wished would have been available for me once I got to the place where I wanted to get to myself. This is the Conversational Hypnotherapy Diploma School.
If you want to learn more about the Conversational Hypnotherapy Diploma School, please share your interest via the comments section, and we will get back to you quickly. Thank you, and see you in one of our videos.